15 years of loyalty ended in a room no bigger than a storage closet. Marjorie Thompson sat across from me, her voice steady, but her eyes alight with something close to pleasure. "Kira, we're restructuring your position." Beside her, Denise from HR nodded on cue, her face molded into the mask of polite regret corporations hand out like uniforms. A manila folder slid across the table between us. Severance, health coverage, a pamphlet filled with resources I would never touch. A neat little package to erase a career. I took the folder without opening it, my face calm. "I completely understand," I said, my voice even, deliberate. Their shoulders dropped. They'd braced for tears, for fury, maybe even a scene. Instead, they found composure. They had no idea I'd been expecting this moment for weeks. Ever since an email, sent by mistake, revealed exactly what was coming. "Clear out your desk by Friday," Marjorie continued, emboldened by my silence. "We'll need your badge, laptop, and phone. Your team will be notified this afternoon." My team. 6 brilliant engineers I had handpicked, mentored, fought for. The same people who helped me build the algorithm now driving TechVantage's crown jewel, software relied on by almost half of the Fortune 500. She dismissed it all, with a line on a memo. I rose, meeting their eyes. "Of course. Is there anything else?" Their confusion was almost comical. They expected a collapse. Instead, I left them grasping for words. Walking back through the glass corridors, I caught sight of the executive board in their conference room, Victor Lawson gesturing wildly at a slide deck promising record revenues. Victor, the man who stood on a stage last year, soaking in applause for my invention, reducing me to one of our researchers. My chest tightened, but not with grief. This was calculation. Inside my office, I closed the door, pulled out my phone, and sent a single message. "It's happening. Friday is my last day." The reply came instantly. "Perfect timing. Contracts are ready. Dinner tonight?" I smiled. Today was Wednesday. Friday, I would walk out of TechVantage for the last time.
And Monday?
Monday would rewrite everything. That evening, I met Gregory Sullivan at Meridian, far from the polished glass towers of my soon-to-be former employer. The restaurant's back alcove was secluded by Japanese screens, a sanctuary for conversations never meant to reach the outside world. Gregory, CEO of TechVantage's fiercest competitor, greeted me with a shake of the head. They actually did it. Cut loose the very person who built their core technology. "Victor never understood what I created," I said, my voice steady as I sipped water. "He saw the surface, the interface, the pitch, the market appeal. But the architecture beneath? He dismissed it as technical noise. 3 months earlier, I had uncovered their betrayal. A patent that should have carried my name had never been filed. An oversight, they called it. But a hidden memo told the truth. They planned to strip me of credit, secure the patent themselves, and shove me aside. They didn't know I'd already gone further, working late nights on my own machines, refining the algorithm until it ran 43% faster. Work that belonged solely to me. Work I had quietly protected under my own patent, sealed and time-stamped. "Everything is ready," Greg said now, sliding a folder across the table. "Sign this and Precision Systems gains exclusive rights. Monday, we announce you as Chief Innovation Officer." Inside, the details I'd already memorized. A signing bonus large enough to erase every slight, stock options that would make me an owner, royalties on every product that carried my design. It was everything TechVantage had tried to steal, now out of their reach forever. Greg's grin widened. "What do you think Victor's face will look like when he realizes?"
I didn't smile back.
"I'm not worried about Victor. I'm worried about my team. They don't deserve the wreckage he's about to walk them into." Greg's expression softened. "Already handled. All 6 of them have offers. Senior roles. Substantial raises. If they want in, they're taken care of." I signed the final page, the pen steady in my hand. Just like that, my future shifted. My team's future secured. My work finally protected. Recognition, at last, no longer something to be begged for, but owned outright. Greg lifted his glass. "To new beginnings." I raised mine to meet his, and to finally owning our worth. The following 2 days blurred. Thursday bled into Friday. Exit interviews, process handovers, hushed goodbyes. Hallways carried whispers, fragments of speculation trailing me like shadows. Assistants avoided my eyes, except for those fleeting looks of sympathy that stung more than silence. Young developers shuffled up nervously, asking if I'd recommend them on LinkedIn, their voices caught between respect and fear. I played the part to perfection.
Calm.
Professional.
Composed.
Documenting every password, every system, every thread of knowledge. A map so detailed it looked like kindness, but it wasn't. It was evidence. Proof that I left with integrity while the company stripped me bare. Friday afternoon, Denise from HR delivered her checklist like a machine reading a script. You understand that any intellectual property developed during your employment remains the property of TechVantage? She droned, sliding an NDA toward me. Of course, I answered with a pleasant smile. Anything developed on company time, using company resources, within the scope of my role. I stressed each word just enough. She didn't notice. She was too busy ticking boxes. And you confirm you've taken no proprietary information? Correct, I said simply. The truth, in its sharpest form. The patent was mine. Always had been. Back at my desk, I packed 15 years into a single cardboard box. Family photos. Conference badges collected like war medals. The coffee mug my team gave me last Christmas. An award etched with my name, ironically for the very algorithm they were now trying to erase me from. I wrapped it carefully in tissue paper. A small symbol of what they thought they owned, but never truly did. Marjorie appeared in my doorway, leaning against the frame with false ease. Just making sure everything's clear for your departure, she said, her eyes scanning the half-empty office. Crystal clear, I replied, my hands folding over the award. She shifted, adding that practice line. These restructuring decisions aren't personal. Victor just feels the company needs a more youthful direction. I looked up and met her gaze. Held it long enough for something in my voice to catch her off guard. I understand completely. Business is business. For the first time, her confidence faltered. Just for a flicker. Then it vanished, smoothed over by the certainty that I was a 55-year-old woman with nowhere left to go. Will you be taking some time off? She asked, tilting her head, her concern painted on like makeup. Actually, no. I start Monday. Her eyebrows lifted. That's fast. Anything interesting? I smiled.
Very.
A leadership role. I'm looking forward to it. The words hung between us, but she moved past them quickly, as though they meant nothing.
Well.
Good luck with that. Moments later, I walked out of TechVantage for the last time. My keycard surrendered. My box of memories in hand. The glass facade reflected the sky back at me, cold and pristine. 15 years of my life contained within those walls, and behind those walls, executives congratulated themselves, convinced they'd cut costs, convinced they'd won. In less than 72 hours, those same walls would echo with panic. Monday arrived bright, almost cinematic. I slipped into the charcoal suit I'd bought just for this moment, a quiet armor. At exactly 7:30, a black town car pulled up, sleek and deliberate. Precision Systems driver opened the door, ushering me toward the future. By the time I stepped into my new corner office, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the skyline, the press release was already live. Greg smiled as he relayed updates. It hit the wire at 7. Newsletters are picking it up. Reactions are rolling in. The announcement was a masterpiece of strategy. Precision Systems secures exclusive rights to a groundbreaking algorithm. Names me as its sole inventor. Introduces me as Chief Innovation Officer. It laid out the truth with surgical clarity. Any company currently using the technology must now negotiate licensing, including TechVantage. At 9:15, my phone buzzed. A message from Miguel, my lead developer. Complete chaos here. What did you do? I allowed myself a small smile as I typed back. Check your personal email. All 6 of you have offers waiting. Meanwhile, 8 miles away, in that glass fortress I had just left behind, the Monday morning executive meeting was no longer a projection of revenue. It was about to become a battlefield. Miguel's updates came rapid fire, each message painting a picture I could see without even being there. By the time Victor walked into his office that Monday morning, the company's general counsel and CFO were already waiting outside his door, pale and tight-lipped. The press release had detonated across the industry like a grenade. Their inboxes flooded at once. Panic set in before Victor even sat down. By 9:30, the normal start-of-week meeting had imploded into an emergency war room. Board members patched in remotely. Lawyers scrambled through contracts, rifling through archives, pulling every file that bore my name. According to Miguel, they even rolled entire servers out of the research division, desperate to trace every breadcrumb of the algorithm's origin. I could picture Victor pacing that glass conference room, snapping at Marjorie, demanding answers from a legal team that had none. The stock market was already punishing them. Investors smell weakness, and TechVantage reeked of it. At 10:45, my inbox pinged with an email from Victor himself. The words were coded in forced calm, but the desperation bled through the screen. Kira, there appears to be a misunderstanding. Please call me at your earliest convenience. I didn't reply. I forwarded it straight to Precision Systems lawyers. Let them deal with it. By noon, the industry had chosen sides. TechVantage stock was down 7%. Precision Systems had surged 12%. Reporters flooded my new office with requests for interviews, calling this the coup that shook the software industry. Greg stopped by, leaning against my doorframe. How are you feeling? I didn't hesitate. Validated. 15 years of being sidelined, watching others take credit, being told I was lucky just to be in the room, and now, finally, the truth is undeniable. My assistant appeared, crisp and efficient. Dr. Jennings, the development team is ready for you. And TechVantage CEO has called 4 times in the last hour. Tell him I'm unavailable, I said evenly.
All day.
Our legal team will discuss licensing later this week. On my way to the conference room, my phone buzzed again.
Miguel.
Board just called emergency session. Victor looks ready to explode. P.S. My team and I accept your offer. When do we start? Relief spread through me like warmth. Monday, I typed back. All of you. By Tuesday, the fallout had crystallized. TechVantage's flagship product, AccountSphere, couldn't function without my algorithm. Without licensing rights, they had 2 choices. Bend the knee to Precision Systems, or rebuild their entire core technology from the ground up, a process that would devour years and millions. Miguel's texts documented the unraveling. Victor called an all-hands for 2 p.m. It's my last day here. We start with you Monday. Rumor is they're planning to sue you. I sent it to our legal team. Their response was immediate and sharp. Let them try. Your logs, timestamps, and personal equipment use are airtight. We've prepared for this. Meanwhile, I was already living the future TechVantage had denied me. Precision Systems treated me with respect I hadn't felt in years. When I spoke, rooms fell silent. My ideas weren't hijacked. My experience wasn't dismissed. Age was an advantage here, not a liability. The engineering team is running your improvements, Greg said during our afternoon briefing. Performance is already testing at 51% above baseline. Better than your projections. I nodded. I had refinements I never shared with TechVantage. Once I realized they planned to cut me loose, I stopped giving them my best. Greg smiled. Their loss. Our gain. By the way, the first licensing request came in this morning. Data flow systems. They don't want to get caught in the crossfire. At 3:30, Miguel's play-by-play of Victor's all-hands meeting arrived. Victor had tried to project control, assuring staff they would vigorously defend our proprietary technology. But the cracks showed. Employees updated their LinkedIn profiles in real time. Someone finally asked if they had even secured the patent. Marjorie, apparently, looked ready to collapse. Victor ended questions on the spot. By Wednesday, the tide had turned into a flood. Two major clients contacted Precision Systems directly, eyeing a switch from AccountSphere. Precision Systems stock soared another 8%. TechVantage continued to bleed. That afternoon, my phone lit up with a call from Denise, the same HR officer who had once pushed my severance package across the table with clinical detachment. Her voice was carefully measured. "Kira, I'm calling regarding the situation with your patent. We believe there may have been a misunderstanding regarding ownership." I let her finish, then answered calmly. "I don't believe there's any misunderstanding at all. My employment agreement is clear," I said into the phone, my voice steady, unshakable. "Anything created on my own time, with my own equipment, belongs to me. The patent documentation confirms that." Denise hesitated. "Victor was hoping you might consider coming in to discuss options." "Any discussion goes through Precision Systems' legal team now," I replied. "They'll be happy to arrange a meeting about licensing terms." Silence stretched. I could almost hear her exhale, resignation slipping through her professional tone. "I'll pass that along." That afternoon, I stood before the board of directors at Precision Systems, leading my first formal presentation. My algorithms sat at the center of our roadmap, the spine of every future product. Unlike at TechVantage, where I'd been tucked away in corners, here I stood at the head of the table, unhidden. Greg's approving nod from across the room felt like quiet vindication. By Friday, barely a week after I'd walked out of TechVantage, the company was collapsing into crisis. Their stock had dropped 23% in 5 days, panicked investors circling like sharks. Analysts published headlines that cut like knives. Can TechVantage survive the algorithm crisis? And how one strategic blunder may cost a tech giant everything. Through back channels, I learned Victor had finally admitted the truth to his board. Their only options were brutal. License my algorithm from Precision Systems at rates that would shred their profit margins, or attempt a total rebuild of AccountSphere. A project that would cost years and fortunes. "They've started interviewing replacements," Miguel told me on our Friday video call. He smirked. "Victor's promising they can recreate it in 6 months." I couldn't help it. I laughed. The original took me 3 years. And that was with complete knowledge of the problem. "Exactly," Miguel said. "No one believes him. Especially now that the entire team resigned in unison. The knowledge drain is catastrophic." That same afternoon, TechVantage's lawyers finally reached out. They wanted to talk licensing. Precision's legal team replied with terms we had crafted carefully, fair on paper, devastating in practice. Triple the standard industry rate, and a public acknowledgement that I was the inventor. Greg leaned back in his chair as we reviewed the draft. "They'll choke harder on the acknowledgement than the cost. Victor's ego won't survive admitting he forced out the mind behind their crown jewel." "Then they'll rebuild," I said. "And every day they waste trying is another day we widen the gap." 10 days after my so-called dismissal, I walked into a conference room buzzing with energy. My new innovation team, Miguel, and the other 5 engineers were all there. Whiteboards filled with diagrams. Ideas flying fast, sharp, alive. "This is how development should feel," Anita said, shaking her head. At TechVantage, half the time we were explaining basic concepts to executives who didn't care. "That's the difference," I told them. "Here, your expertise matters. You're not replaceable. You're respected." As we wrapped, my assistant stepped in. "Dr. Jennings, news just broke. TechVantage announced an emergency leadership change. Victor Lawson is stepping down. Effective immediately." The ripple spread fast. Within hours, headlines declared the board had lost faith in Victor, citing the patent oversight that threatened their flagship product. Marjorie Thompson was out too. So was the head of legal. The empire was eating itself alive. That evening, I received an email from Richard Donovan, the interim CEO. Unlike Victor's desperate plea, this was professional, direct. "Dr. Jennings, congratulations on your new role. I've been brought in to stabilize TechVantage. We'd like to negotiate a fair licensing agreement for your patented technology. We are prepared to acknowledge your contributions publicly and make amends for the failures of prior leadership. Would you be available to meet next week?" I forwarded it to Greg with a short note. Phase 1 complete. His reply came back almost instantly. Beautifully executed. The board is celebrating your first victory. Looks like TechVantage is finally learning the cost of underestimating innovation and innovators. 3 months later, I stood backstage at the National Technology Innovation Conference. The hall was filled with executives, journalists, developers, all of them waiting. My story had spread, reshaped into legend. And now, the organizer's voice rang out. Please welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Kira Jennings, Chief Innovation Officer at Precision Systems and the creator of the distributed processing algorithm that has transformed industries worldwide. The applause surged as I walked to the podium. 3 months ago, I was packing my life into a cardboard box. Now I stood here, recognized, respected, and finally seen. What a difference a few months could make. A year earlier, I had sat in this same ballroom, tucked away at the back of the TechVantage delegation. Victor had been at the podium then, parading my work as his company's triumph. I had smiled politely, invisible in plain sight. Now I stood where he once stood. Thank you, I began, scanning the faces leaning forward listening. Today, I want to talk about something every innovator deserves: ownership, recognition, the right to be valued for the ideas they bring into the world. I walked them through the architecture of my algorithm, the way it bent impossibilities into order. But I also stepped outside the code. I spoke about respect, about how too many companies see innovators as interchangeable pieces, about how dangerous it is to treat creativity as disposable. I never mentioned TechVantage by name. I didn't have to. Everyone in the room knew. Afterward, at the reception, a group of young women engineers found me. Their eyes carried that mix of admiration and hunger I once had at their age. One of them, barely 30, said quietly, "Your story changed me." I started keeping detailed logs of everything I build, on my own time, in my own space. I don't want my work stolen. I squeezed her hand. Smart. Protect your ideas. No one else will do it for you. That night, an alert lit up my phone. TechVantage had finally signed the licensing agreement with Precision Systems. My name was there in black and white, creator of the algorithm. Their stock had steadied, though at a fraction of its former height. The empire was still standing, but hollowed, diminished. Exactly 1 year after they told me to pack a cardboard box, I sat in my office at Precision Systems, surrounded by glass and light, reviewing our quarterly innovation report. Under my leadership, we had launched 3 groundbreaking products, each powered by my algorithm. Market share was shifting. Competitors were falling behind. A knock on the door. Greg entered, carrying a chilled bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. "Happy anniversary," he said, setting them on my desk. His grin carried more pride than celebration. "The board wanted me to tell you first. We've surpassed TechVantage in market valuation. For the first time in company history." I didn't feel triumph. I felt something quieter. Solid. Whole. That's what happens when you value innovation the way it deserves. As Greg poured, my assistant stepped in with a sleek envelope. Inside, an invitation to keynote at the Women in Technology Leadership Summit. The topic: owning your intellectual value. How proper documentation changed an industry. "You've become something of an icon," Greg said, watching me read. "Your story's a boardroom parable now. Every executive knows it." The leader who didn't see the gold in her hands until it was too late. Even TechVantage had changed. Under Richard Donovan, they'd rewritten their policies, recognition programs, stronger IP protections. Their new playbook was modeled directly after the system I had built here at Precision Systems. It was never about revenge, I said, lifting my glass. It was about recognition, about showing that innovation isn't faceless. It belongs to the people who create it. Greg raised his glass. "To recognition." "To recognition," I echoed. The sun dipped lower, flooding my office with gold. I sat back, letting the moment sink in. At 56, after decades of being overlooked, I had found what I had been chasing my entire career. Not just success, not just titles, but acknowledgement. My name now lived where it had always belonged, etched permanently beside the algorithm that changed an industry.